guys, welcome to our channel and welcome back to our channel. Today I wanted to sit down and talk about my postpartum depression story. I have not mentioned, I have not talked about the story. I've mentioned that I have it. I've also tried to record this video several times and I cry every single time, but that's raw emotion. It's still sensitive. I'm still dealing with postpartum depression 2.5, almost 3 years later. And I just wanted to sit down and talk about my story to share and maybe help, another mom out there or another mom who can relate. Maybe we can relate and, have something to relate about. And, I see this coming as a really sensitive subject, but let's go ahead and get on with the video. You guys know that everyone has different symptoms. What I felt, maybe someone isn't feeling or hasn't felt, but maybe some symptoms are there, but it's just different for everyone. Everyone has a different experience with postpartum depression, just let it be known. So it started when my son was 2 weeks old. Technically in the beginning, my boyfriend said that he noticed a change in me as soon as our son was born. Looking back and just remembering everything 2, almost 3 years ago, the only thing that kind of sticks out to my mind was when we kangarooed, when he first came out. They advised you to kangaroo for an hour, but I probably had him for 10 minutes and I passed him to his dad, and his dad kangarooed with him, and then I cried a lot in the hospital. But let's be honest, for me, hospitals can be a tad depressing. Even when my kids are in the hospital, for example, like my daughter, she's asthmatic, so sometimes we have, when she has a super bad asthma attack, we are in hospitals, and I'm depressed then. Is there something about hospitals that can be depressing? So that's what I just thought. I brushed off because of that. And I kept him in his little bassinet thing, whatever. I call it a bassinet. I don't know what it's called. I kept him in that a lot. I didn't hold him as much as I did with my oldest. But then, I thought that with my first, I was always told to not hold her as much, and I did hold her a lot. So, I thought that with him, maybe not to hold him as much. I totally just brushed everything off in the hospital until 2 weeks later, when everything just got worse. I want to say a week in, when he was a week old, that's what I meant by week in. I was feeling these feelings of being depressed and stuff, but I just brushed it off, and I thought it was normal because I was trying to, get used to having 2 kids instead of 1, and by week 2, everything was just worse. I was super, super depressed. By now, I didn't want to be around anyone, especially my kids. I didn't want to bond with him, and I didn't want to be around her. I was crying so much every chance that I could. I was crying. If I wasn't crying, I was angry, and I did lash out on their dad a lot, and I mean a lot. I didn't want to go outside. I just wanted to stay in my room and be alone. I just didn't want no one around me. So then, my symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. And so I reached out to my mom, because with her 4th kid, she had baby blues, and when my son was born, he was born in May, so it was super warm. It was always nice. So she wanted to always go down to the park and get me out because she didn't want me to go through what she did, but technically I kind of went through worse. I hid everything from everyone. I tried to, because I was always told, you know, it's normal to feel tired all the time. It's normal to have these whack emotions because your hormones are just, you know, still going crazy. I just want to let everyone know, like, if you know it's not normal, please reach out for help. I wish I would have reached out, you know, as soon as it happened, instead of making it, you know, waiting until it got worse. So then I told my mom, and she advised me to talk to his pediatrician because we had an appointment coming up to check on his weight. And that's when I was honest. At the checkup, they give you this paper that says, like, how are you feeling or whatever. To be honest, I wanted to lie on that thing because I didn't want them to know that I was having these symptoms. I was scared that my kids, you know, were going to be taken away, or they were going to say that I was unfit to be a mom, and I wanted to lie. But my mom told me not to lie because I could get the help that I wanted, and a part of me even told myself, don't lie, just be honest. You know, this is your cry for help, and if you can get help, get it. And I know it's scary getting help because, you know, you don't want them to think that you're an unfit mom. You don't want, you know, your kids taken away. And this is what this is what my doctor told me, and even his pediatrician. As long as you're not starving your kids or abusing your kids or neglecting your kids, and as long as you are, you know, just trying to get help for your problems, 9 times out of 10, because, you know, if they don't suspect abuse or anything, they're not gonna get your kids taken out, or they're not gonna take your kids away, and mine were fine. I will talk about that in a minute, but just let you guys know, if you feel like you need to get help, or if you're just feeling, you know, if you feel like you need to get help, get help. And if you feel like you're just not yourself, please speak up. I'm super glad that I did speak up, because the pediatrician tried to get me into a therapist, but for some reason they were having issues with their office. So she advised me to talk to my doctor at 6 weeks, the 6-week checkup, and she did have me come in like every week or every 2 weeks to make sure that I was fine for sure, and my symptoms weren't getting worse. But my symptoms did get worse. They kept getting worse and kept getting worse, but I just held on to myself. And at 6 weeks I went to my doctor, and I told her up front that, you know, this is what I was feeling, and you know, I felt so much relief just being lifted off. She was a great doctor, and I felt safe talking to her. And you know, after being told that my kids weren't gonna get taken away, and that's a normal mom's, you know, feeling when it comes to this, I was okay with, you know, speaking up. In their office, they had this woman that came in, and she worked with a therapist. Like, she was a therapist herself, but she worked in an office that was kind of with this the doctor's office as well, and they helped moms get into the office if they were feeling themselves like I was. And so I made an appointment with her to come back to the office and talk to the therapist, and I did. Like, I told everything, and it felt good to get help. It felt like, I don't know, it just felt good. And at first I was so scared of getting help, but when everyone kept telling me that I was fine. My kid, or not, I was fine, but the whole being scared to have your kids taken away is totally normal. Like, that feeling's normal. But as long as you're not, you know, hurting them or neglecting them or anything, and they're fine, but you're not, as long as you're getting help, as long as you're reaching out. They told me that my kids were fine. They weren't going to take my kids away as long as they seemed like they were being taken care of, which, you know, they were. They weren't neglected or anything. I know me saying that I wasn't bonding with them and didn't want to be around them sounded crazy, but to be honest, in between my mom and my boyfriend, they were really taken care of. It was just me. You know, I wasn't okay. So then when I started talking to her, she got me into a appointment with a therapist, and I really love that therapist. I could talk to her about anything, and I know talking to someone else, like especially a therapist, can be scary, and I know getting help can be scary, but if, you know, you're feeling any type of way, I really want you guys to reach out and just try to get help. Getting help really changed me. I went to therapy like every other week for a while because in the beginning she really wanted to check up on me, and then I got to pick my own appointments, like when I wanted to see her, and I wanted to see her as much as I could because I just didn't want to get worse. They gave me an option to do medication. I didn't take it because I'm just really iffy about medication, but then I caved in. I want to say it was like a few weeks after I caved in, and I was on Zoloft for a while, but then, you know, between Zoloft and I was on birth control as well, it just made everything so much worse. So then I came off of Zoloft, and ever since I have been going without medication. I was attending groups for people with anxiety and people with depression, so I was around other people who were going through what I was going through. I liked being around everyone that had the same problem I did, you know, suffering from depression or suffering from anxiety. I liked being in groups where I could relate with everyone because they understood what I was going through. It was so much easier for me to speak and talk about my story and just talk about what I was feeling, and everyone, and even the leader of the group, who was a therapist herself, like they just, in every group, they seemed so nice and they helped in any way they could, and I'm so glad that I went and got help. After it was 6 months of getting help, I stopped going because I learned enough to be able to kind of get through my moments. I have learned ways to cope, and it has helped me since then. And since, you know, just since then, that's what I've been doing now. Granted, I do have my days where it does get the best of me, but so far I've really learned how to cope. And I'm also going to do a video on ways to cope with both anxiety and depression as well. But I just wanted to go and talk about my story, and I just want to say, if you aren't feeling yourself and you feel different, please just talk and reach out for help. Even if at the end of the day it wasn't what you thought it was, at least you spoke, and at least you took that step, because that step is the hardest step ever. It is super hard to sit here and get help, and like I said, I'm so glad that I did reach out and got help. Also, I just want to let everyone know that your life is super important, and you're important, and you matter, and your life matters, and that you are loved, and you, I don't know where I'm getting at this, it's just, you're really important to your friends, to your family, and if you can, please reach out, even if it's to a family or a friend. And if you don't want to reach out to a therapist or someone higher, just reach out to a family or friend, someone that you trust, and just talk. You can always reach out to me. I always put our social medias down in the description. I'd be glad to talk about anything to anyone I can relate to so much. So yeah, just remember that. But I'm gonna go ahead and go now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.